The Boston Celtics had no answer for Victor Wembanyama in crunch time. Jaylen Brown put on a show, a near triple-double, but the Celtics fall to the San Antonio Spurs for their second loss in the last 3 games. What's up, everyone, and welcome into your Celtics source, home of your 24-14 third place Boston Celtics. The Celtics fall to the San Antonio Spurs 100-95. It was a defensive battle all night long, and I want to get into Jaylen Brown's performance. I want to get into just the impact that Victor Wembanyama makes, even when he's playing limited minutes, even when he's not even playing consecutive stretches. He's coming in and out of the lineup, even when he isn't scoring. Just the impact that he makes on the defensive end, just his presence, just took away anything the Celtics wanted to do in this game. I'm going to keep this episode pretty short, or this video pretty short, because we are going to be doing a podcast episode after I record this, which will come out sometime tomorrow. In that episode, we are going to talk about the Celtics' last 3 games, as we always do. Some themes. We're going to talk about actually a little bit, off topic, but we are going to do some reaction to the 2 NFL games from tonight, as well as previewing Patriots-Chargers on Sunday Night Football. We're going to do all that, and unfortunately, as I'm recording this as well, the news is coming out that Alex Bregman is signing with the Chicago Cubs. I mean, it's just a rough night in Boston right now. Luckily, we do have the Patriots, and hopefully maybe they can make a run this postseason. But with the Red Sox news and this loss tonight, it was sure a tough night to be a Boston fan. But getting into this game, the first thing that stands out about this game is, obviously it's Victor Wembanyama. It's not, though, his scoring. It's the fact that he would just be standing in the paint on defense, and the Celtics were so scared to even go into the paint that you had 5 guys out on the perimeter, even guys that don't even shoot threes in Kada, and sometimes, Garza, who does shoot threes, but not at the clip that a Derek White or Jaylen Brown does. And Jaylen Brown was on fire from 3 in this game. But still, you have no spacing when everyone is out on the perimeter, afraid to even challenge Wemby, right? Like, I would have liked to see them in this fourth quarter, because that's, it was a close game through most of the entire night. The game was lost in crunch time, where just, Wemby just, we'll talk about what Wemby did specifically, but as for, just his presence, the Celtics really were at fault in just their inability to even think about challenging him, right? It's one thing to, go in and get blocked, but you can go in, and then pass it out, right? Try and, get a little bit better spacing, because with the way that the Celtics were playing, everyone was guarded each and every possession down the floor in crunch time, because, the Spurs didn't have to move. There was no, they weren't running any actions to try and get Victor Wembanyama involved. He was just sitting in the paint, basically doing nothing. The Celtics were being guarded, the 5 players for the Celtics were being guarded by 4 San Antonio players, and it just, absolutely destroyed the Celtics' offense in that crunch time. Wemby, obviously, did have an impact on the offensive end as well, in the last, 3 or 4 minutes of this game, where he looked like Kevin Durant, just pull-ups from mid-range shots, fadeaways, stuff that you just have to hope and pray he misses. And, when you're off the floor at Wemby's height at, probably 9 feet in the air at that point, maybe even taller, 10 feet, 11 feet in the air, there's no chance of stopping any of those shots. The Celtics didn't even put a traditional center on him for much of the night. They went with guys like Garza, or not Garza, they went with guys like Baylor Shireman, Ugo Gonzalez, to try and just get him off his spots. And, it worked for most of the night, right? Obviously, he didn't play, big minutes. He came off and on. This was a game where, he's still recovering from his injuries, and it would have been nice to take advantage of it, especially because, when he did go off the court, Luke Cornett and Kelly Olynyk still made an impact. And that's what's so great about this Spurs team, right? The fact that even when Wemby's off the court, Luke and Olynyk and whoever's out there can still hold their own for the Spurs and keep a game close so that when Wemby does come back on, the Spurs can pull away, right? The Spurs are the best team by far defensively when he's on the court. I think the Thunder had the best, defensive rating overall for the season at was it 108, something like that, 109. And I believe when Wemby's on the court, they hold teams to 99 points for 100 possessions, which, obviously he's not playing 40 minutes, 45, 48 minutes a night, right? But if he was, that'd be the best defense we've probably ever seen, in the modern era of NBA basketball, where, teams should be scoring in the hundreds easily. Right, in this game, Wemby did have, off the bench, right, playing 28 minutes, or 26 minutes, 21 points, 8 of 17 on field goals, only 1 of 4 from 3, but, he's not in, his role out there tonight was not the scoring. It was just his presence on the defensive end. Just basically, just sitting there, basically, canceling any, chance the Celtics had of trying to make a run in this game. That being said, Jaylen Brown did have another fantastic night. Much better efficiency from last night, and last night was a good game as well. But in this game, he does have 27 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, and he was on fire from 3. I think he goes 5 of 7 in the game, if I'm not mistaken. 5 of 11. It was 5 of 7 at some point. I think he took a couple, threes in the end of the fourth quarter, trying to, maintain their distance from the Spurs, right? Try and get back in the game after, it went into little, fouls and, foul exchange, like almost all games like that go. Right, but for most of the game, he was just coming around screens. He had a just filthy off-the-dribble step-back 3 early in the first quarter that just, unnatural maneuvers from Jaylen Brown, right? He's not known for his off-the-dribble three-point shooting. He does a lot of, pull-up threes sometimes in transition, but he's not like a Jason Tatum with a sidestep 3 or an Anthony Simons with a sidestep 3 or even a Pritchard who likes to take threes off the dribble that way. Right? He's much more of a, sometimes he does do catch-and-shoot threes, but he rarely takes threes, off of heavy dribbles. And this, he's doing a little bit more of it this season, and he's knocking them down. And, if Jaylen Brown's going to be a three-way scorer in his ability to shoot the mid-range at one of the best players to do it this season, and he can shoot a decent clip from 3, in the high 30s, even 38, 39, if he can get to that and stay at that. And then obviously he's nasty at the rim with his left hand, despite the wrist medicines and whatever he talked about last night. But that being said, right, if he's able to do all those things, he is an MVP candidate and a top, 5 player in the NBA. And I don't think he's quite there on the 3, right? That's never been his strong suit. And to be quite honest, you don't really want him doing that because it takes away from his ability to be a menace inside the paint, right? We don't see as many of those just nasty poster dunks like he had against the Raptors on Friday night. But moving on from Jaylen Brown, because I do want to keep this really concise and short, because we're going to do a full podcast episode tomorrow, is the fact that, the free throw disparity in this game really cost the Celtics The Spurs shot, I believe, 20 free throws to the Celtics 4. I mean, it was, I don't, like, the Spurs, there were a couple questionable fouls, but I'm not saying, like, this was unfair in any way. I'm just saying that, the Celtics did nothing to get to the paint with Wemby there, right? You're not going to be picking up fouls on three-pointers. And, Wemby's ability just to, limit the team's ability to get to the line cost the Celtics in this game because they didn't have a way to get some free points back. When they were missing threes, they did go through a stretch in the third quarter where they couldn't hit threes. And it would have been nice to have another way to score the ball, but not with Wemby around. But I'm going to wrap it up here. Once again, the Celtics win 100-95. We will be back tomorrow with a podcast episode. We're going to talk about this game. We're going to talk about the Raptors Nuggets games. We are going to talk a little NFL and some Red Sox news. We got to talk about all that. And until next time, go Celtics.